a lot of people think, oh, acquiring the property, give it to a property management company, and voila, everything will be done, right? So,
Yeah.
so you want to share some of your thoughts on that?
Absolutely right. And you and I are on the same page here because all these you see all the gurus out there talking about, oh, buy, syndicate a deal and you'll be financially free and you can do whatever you want. Yeah, that's not the case, right? I mean, it is like anything else we do in this world. It takes work. So you're absolutely right. Closing a deal and raising the money may seem challenging, and it can be.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to REI Secret Spill Fast Track to Riches. Today, I have with me Jens Nielsen. Now, again, I made the mistake of calling him Jens before, but Jens is from Denmark, and he has a very interesting story to share today. Jens was in 25 years in IT, transitioned from IT to real estate, and from real estate, he became a real estate coach. So we're going to, talk about his journey into this. So welcome, Jens.
Thanks, Sanjay. I'm excited about being here today. That's going to be fun.
Absolutely. Your entire journey itself, for me, I found it very interesting because I'm from India, so I transitioned over here as well as an immigrant. So as immigrants, we always have interesting stories. So I would love to understand how did an IT guy transition from who moved from Denmark into the United States, decided one day that he wants to get into real estate investment and become a real estate coach.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know the journey, right? Coming from another country, it's always a bit of a culture shock to come over here. I came in 1996, so it's been a few days, right? But came over here, I didn't actually have I had a job, but I didn't actually have a degree. So I went through, went to school. I was living in Maryland, then got my undergrad and my graduate degree in computer science. And I thought, hey, this is a great career to be in, good income, interesting work. And I loved it. I mean, I enjoyed the work for so many years. Moved, took me around the country. I've worked from anything from startups to large telecommunication companies to local governments to Indian tribes. So I've tried a little bit of everything, and it took me around the country to very interesting places, and I loved it. But then in my mid 40s, I realized that, hey, I have another 20 years of doing this. And, it changes, technology changes so quickly, and it's so hard to stay, as you get older. It's like, oh my God, it's hard to keep up with it. So I had to find something else. And initially, I didn't know what that was, right? Because everything else just looked like a job until I kind of stumbled on real estate. And I bought my first, initially, I didn't know anything about, private equity and syndications and raising money. So I thought, oh, you just do it with your own capital. So back in 2016, I bought my first smaller properties in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I was living in Colorado at that time. And, we had some money saved up, bought a few properties, and it was like, oh, this actually makes sense. You put some money in, you fix it up, and it pays you every month, right? So that was kind of the aha moment. And, then over a few years, slowly, went a little bit bigger, did some joint ventures, and then kind of get into the syndications and private equity in 2019. So that's the first part of my journey. And, not to be go too deep into it. I'm happy to take any questions or dive into any areas that you feel are interesting.
No, yeah, it's very interesting. So I'm pretty sure when you're moving from an IT background, which has got nothing to do with real estate, moving into something like a new territory for you, I'm pretty sure it all comes back with some of its sets back and lessons learned, I would always say. So is that something that you would like to share with us?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the journey from IT to real estate, right? So most, or at least I was, have an analytical mind, right? So running the numbers and analyzing deals and all this stuff came to me pretty easily, right? So that was not too hard. I think what we forget in real estate is that, well, first of all, if you can time is your friend. The longer you hold on to something, the better you tend to do. But there's ups and downs along the way, right? I mean, we know what interest rates have been doing the last few years and everything else. But I mean, some of the early challenges we had were just, buying some older properties that, needed more work than we thought, right? They looked okay on the outside, but then we started renovating, bathrooms and kitchens. Like, oh my God, there's, all these problems behind the walls and everything else. I mean, we bought this deal in 2018, which was 38 units in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And we got it for a steal. It was $1.2 million, So it was a good price, but it needed a lot of work, right? And we suddenly had to jackhammer up the floor because there was pipes were leaking in the floor and everything else. But it's worked out, right? Then, of course, moving forward into the syndication world, then other challenges are become present, with interest rates and everything else that we've had to deal with.
Yeah, no, I can completely understand that. But it is very interesting that you talked about underwriting, and then you talked about, I always look at it, it's like, okay, the first part of it is, acquiring the property. And that's just like, it's a short-lived thing, right? Like, okay, hey, we raised the capital, we've got all these things done now. But yes, let's do cheers to that. But I think it's always just the tip of the iceberg, right? So I think there are so many things get started after that. You got to put some systems in place. You got to, make sure that the asset management is done right. And that's, a lot of people don't, think about that. A lot of people think, oh, acquiring the property, give it to a property management company, and voila, everything will be done. Right. So,
Yeah.
so you want to share some of your thoughts on that?
Absolutely, right. And you and I are on the same page here because all these, you see all the gurus out there talking about, oh, buy, syndicate a deal and you'll be financially free and you can do whatever you want. Yeah, that's not the case, right? I mean, it is like anything else we do in this world, it takes work. So you're absolutely right, closing a deal and raising the money may seem challenging, and it can be, but oh my God, after you close it, you have to asset manage that deal for years. And it is hard. I mean, oh my God, right? I mean, managing people is never easy. Managing, property and contractors, everything else. So that's something, I spend a lot of time is on his asset management, especially around, managing to the business plan, trying to make sure that we implement the value add strategy we have, that we manage, the property management and all that. So that's incredibly complicated. And I think most people don't really think about that up front. And that's something that doesn't easily come easy. I think if you're like a project manager in a business, you'd probably be a decent asset manager as well, right? That's how I would relate or connect the two.
So what kind of systems have you put in place to make it successful?
Yeah, I mean, I think the key thing is like we have weekly meetings where we look over let's say the renovation plan, right? Look over the renovation plan. Where are we in terms of our expenditures and our budgets and so forth, right? We weekly meetings too, the property management company. Where are we on occupancy, leads, collections, delinquencies, and all these things, right? So we just have meetings and we hold people accountable to it. We tend to follow the entrepreneurial operating system, EOS. We tend to use that to kind of use some of the framework there. And, then we use Slack and Asana and tools like that, right? But I think technology is not going to solve the problem for you. I think it's more like understanding what's into it and try to manage people to certain outcomes, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's where having the right kind of team is so important. Whether it is your property management company or it is us as operators ourselves with our partners, that each of us, assign a certain responsibility, and it's at the end of the day, it is so important that we do what we say that we're going to do, right? And hold ourselves accountable to make sure that it happens. So I completely understand, Jens, on this one. So Jens, you do also, obviously we all as sponsors and GPs have to raise capital as well. So you being from the IT industry, what kind of like CRM or what kind of systems have you created? Have you created something of your own? You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean the capital. So the way I've gone about raising money was basically, connecting with everybody that I knew, right? So it was very grassroots, organic, just meeting people and getting them to know them. Because the thing is, right, you don't need a million investors. You need a handful of investors that trust you and they're willing to invest with you over and over. So I tend to invest money and time into people like that because a lot of people come back to me, invest over and over, right? So I think it is a people's business, first and foremost. Now, what do we do, right? So we obviously, have a newsletter. So I send out monthly newsletters. We tend to run like investor education webinars. We tend to, just stay in touch with people, call them, email them, text them, and to see how they're doing and so forth, right? So I think I'm not out there blasting a bunch of stuff on Facebook and social media and all this. This is not really how I operate. I prefer to connect with people that I know, get referrals and so forth. That has seemed to work to me. Go to conferences and other places and meet people that way.
Got it. Got it. So, so you moved from like obviously you're a real estate investor, but you're also a coach. And I also see that you also have you started off with what is called as a paid forward multifamily mastermind. So would you like to speak a little bit about that? Give our listeners, if you have something coming up that they could attend.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's interesting, right? I've always loved to educate people. Like when I was a manager in my IT job, I love to like train and coach my team, and I think it's a great way to learn a complicated topic. If you can teach it to somebody else, you got to be somewhat good at it yourself, right? So as I, a few 3 or 4 years into my real estate career, I was like, wow, I really want to like help the next generation of investors. And I started out by kind of mentoring them. Hey, you want to know how to buy, a fourplex or a 10 unit or a 50 unit? I know how to do that, right? So I can help you, walk you through the process. So that's the real estate mentoring. But then I also got certified as a high performance coach. So I help coach people. And that's more of the mindset, do you have the right clarity? Do you have the right energy? Do you have the right productivity? Are you able to influence people? What's your purpose in this world, right? And so a lot of my clients, they come to me and they want to learn how to buy real estate. Sure, I'll help them, but then they stay for the mindset coaching because that helps them create, making sure they're on the right track, creating better relationships with their families, just really achieving a higher level of satisfaction in life. So that's really a big passion of mine, is the coaching and the mentoring. And then, as you said, I was like, how can I scale this? I'm not a guy that's going to go out and create a big coaching program, because that's not me. I like to work with people one-on-one, but I also thought we had a little bit of responsibility paying it forward to the next generation of investors, right? And what we then ended up doing is me and a few partners, we created this conference in Denver, Colorado, that we've been running for 4 years. And it's basically, a group of investors. So we target, the new or the newer investor. Maybe you've been in the business for a few years, you've done a couple of deals, but you still need to surround yourself with some more people. You need to get some mastermind with others to really push yourself forward. So it's been a lot of fun. We try to keep it small, 50, 60 people. That's kind of the goal. So it's coming up in May. And if I can, I don't know, I'll share my screen real quick here. So anybody that's watching the YouTube channel or whatever can kind of see it. Yeah. So it's coming up here in May in Denver. We start on Thursday. VIPs go and have fun. We've gone to Top Golf and then other things, and everybody has and 10.99 for a VIP ticket. And I think we're probably about 50% sold out already. So if anybody want to come to Denver, absolutely, I would love to see you guys there. So here's the website, Paid Forward Mastermind, and here are the current prices until I think, end of this month. So
Awesome, awesome. No, thanks, Jens, for sharing this information with us. So if I understand this correct, this is more for active investors, or you also invite passive investors?
this is more for active investors, somebody who is, they're newer in the game. They maybe want to find a new partner. They really are struggling with getting to the next level. They need some people that have been there and help them, right? So it's a lot about that. It's really masterminding, and then we have, and actually, it's not me, it's a colleague of mine that does some high performance coaching too, to make sure you have the right vision. So everybody loves it, and we've gotten a ton of great feedback every time we've done it, But yeah, it's not, I mean, yeah, if you're a limited investor or passive investor who wants to come in and learn, absolutely, we'll welcome you, right? But it is more geared towards the active person.
Awesome. I know, Jens, you have at the top of the hour, you got another call, so I want to be respectful of your time. So if I were to ask you one final question, which would be like, what is the most challenging asset you had, and what was the major problem in that, and how did you fix it?
Yeah, so this is a deal in Cleveland, Ohio. It's 187 units that we purchased a few years ago. And the biggest challenge we had there, that it was on floating rate debt, and the interest rate went through the roof, and we were like bleeding money. Like, oh my God, what are we going to do here? So we ended up, luckily we were able to refinance it last summer, but we had to do a capital call because we didn't have enough funds to really sustain it. So that was a challenge. We got to refinance. It's still, still in the stabilization phase of that one, but that was probably my biggest, most challenging experience so far.
No capital calls, none of those. All good. Refinancing work for you.
Oh, we had to do a capital call as part of the refinance. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that
no.
was, it's never fun to go to investors and say we need more money, but unfortunately, hey, it's part of that world too. At times, more capital is needed to make it a success.
Absolutely. No, I think we all have gone through similar situations, at least once or twice, especially with this kind of environment that we are in. So I feel your pain. I understand where you're coming from on that. So with that, Jens, I appreciate you taking your time, getting on on the podcast, and sharing your wisdom, your journey with us. And thank you again for coming.
Thank you, Sanjay, and the best of luck to you as well.
Thank you.